British journalist Piers Morgan recently interviewed MAGA cultist and aspiring Republican senator for Arizona, Kari Lake, about Donald Trump's electoral prospects in the event that he's convicted of any of the 91 federal charges he faces, and about whether any of us should respect the outcome of the election if Trump wins, given that election denialism is all the rage thanks to Trump and his movement. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert buttons before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at in this video. As I often say when we discuss Piers Morgan, I disagree with virtually all of his political opinions. He pitches himself as an enlightened centrist, which basically means he's a closet conservative. He constantly grades conservatives and the right and Trump and Republicans on a curve, and I despise that. But he is an excellent interviewer, no matter who he is facing. And he's interviewed Kari Lake in the past, and his expertise with her comes in handy here. In this first clip, he asks her about Donald Trump's electoral prospects in the event that he's convicted of any of the felonies he faces.
What if he's in prison? I mean, genuine question. He's facing 91 criminal charges. What if he's convicted of one or some of those charges and actually gets put into a prison cell? I mean, it could happen. Under the Constitution, he would still be able to run the country, but would that be a good thing?
We've seen the witch hunts. They've been going on since President Trump had the courage to step into the political arena. There's been one witch hunt after the next, and most of it fueled by the media, sadly. And even if he was sitting in Alcatraz, the people will vote for him because they know that he is going to put America first.
Not exactly sure that Donald Trump ever put America first. We recently found out a conclusive report that Donald Trump received at least $8 million from foreign powers that he pocketed himself, right? So it seems to me that Donald Trump is Trump first and everybody else second. But the fact of the matter is Kari Lake has some reason to be confident here. Not only have major prominent Republican officials, including virtually all of his rivals, most of whom have dropped out at this point, said that they would back Trump even if he's convicted, but there's actually evidence among the constituents as well. The Iowa Republican caucus was recently held, and the majority, a distinct majority of Republicans in Iowa said that even if Trump is convicted, they still think he's fit to be president, right? So that predictably cultish answer from Kari Lake has at least some degree of terrifying truth to it. However, and there's always a however, Donald Trump and Kari Lake have some reason to be nervous, right? So this is from the New York Times. The negative impact of conviction on Trump has emerged in polling as a consistent through line over the past 6 months, nationally and in key states. We're not aware of a poll that offers any evidence to the contrary. The swing in this data away from Trump varies, but in a close election, as 2024 promises to be, any movement can be decisive. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the fact that polling has consistently shown that if Donald Trump is convicted of any of the felonies, that at least a statistically relevant portion of Republican voters will not support him in the 2024 election. Certainly not half, definitely not a majority, but enough if the polling is accurate and it holds true to the election, which is 10 months away. All of these things, big ifs. That means if Trump is convicted, that he will probably lose as a result of that because enough Republicans will not support him. Again, if. Now, in this next clip, Piers Morgan, to me, asks a much more interesting question, which is, okay, let's assume Trump wins the election. Why should any of us respect the outcome of the election, given all the lies that you've all told and the election denialism you've all indulged in? How about we flip it around on you?
If he wants to win a general election, why should any of us accept the result? Why shouldn't we just all pull a Trump and say, no, not having it, never happened. The other guy Biden got stolen, got robbed, and just keep saying that for the entire tenure of Trump's second term. I mean, seriously, why shouldn't Americans just, not me, but Americans just return the favor?
Yeah. We heard that in 2016. Remember, Hillary was the original election denier. That's the term they use. We've all been called that. And this is one of the reasons, Piers, why I've been pushing and working really hard to bring about election reform. Because frankly, since 2000, we've had elections where one year it'll be the Democrats saying they don't think it was fair. The next time it's the Republicans. We have the ability to make our election so fair that we wake up the next day after the election and everyone can live with the results because they know it was fair. And that's why I continue to push to try to reform our election so that Democrats feel comfortable and believe in the results, independents and Republicans. And I think President Trump wants to see
Kari, we've debated this before, but my problem with that is, to any independent eye, they have been fair. Your election, Trump's election, they were fair. And most senior Republicans have accepted this. And to continue bleating about having an election robbed makes it difficult for you to then claim victory, doesn't it, in elections?
Well, I will point out that you brought up the whole topic. So it was your topic that you brought up and asked me about. And I just answered. So I think we're going to work to bring about reform. I mean, I think more and more Americans are realizing that mail-in ballots and having them float around out there for a month and voting for a month and counting votes for 2 weeks is a recipe for fraud to seep into our elections. And I think all we want is really fair elections that everybody feels comfortable with.
The problem is that the only elections that Republicans are comfortable with are the ones they win, period. Now, first things first, I feel this is important to address. Kari Lake's media training. She used to be a TV anchor in Arizona. She's very, very good on camera. And I'm not just referring to the ring light, right, which is just like blowing all the details away. She is very skilled at giving answers, as crazy as she is. And she tried to create a false equivalence between Trump's election denialism and Hillary Clinton's election denialism in 2016. And the right does this all the time. But there are crucial differences. One of them being that Hillary Clinton formally, publicly conceded to Donald Trump the day after the election and actually called him the night of the election to concede to him privately. These are crucial differences. And I just want to remind you.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans.
So again, she conceded privately the day of the election and conceded publicly the day after the election. Donald Trump has never done that because, again, Hillary Clinton, for all her faults, is morally and intellectually vastly superior to Donald Trump, and there is no false equivalence. She didn't try to sue her way into the White House. She formally and publicly and privately conceded, and there was nothing like the election denialism of 2020 in 2016. So she's Kari Lake is completely wrong on this. But it's also disturbing because an increasing number of Republicans are in denial about the 2020 election. There was more widespread election denialism than there ought to be, given that the facts didn't support it. But as time has gone on, more and more Republicans don't believe that President Biden won the election fairly.
Also asked folks, do you think Joe Biden legitimately won the 2020 election? 68%, more than 2/3 of those in these early entrance poll results showing up early to the caucus sites say no, he did not, wrongly say no, he did not win legitimately in 2020.
That is how pervasive election denialism is with the Republican Party. Other polls put it at 88%. So Trump voters in Iowa, did Biden win legitimately in 2020? 88% say no. So there is any equivalence, any attempt at equivalence between the left and the right on this is indeed a false equivalence. This is a relatively unique problem for the Republican Party, as is often the case. Typically, when you see parties or issues among both parties, you can bet that it is worse on the Republican side. So I love what Piers Morgan did there. Again, putting it back to Kari Lake, saying, listen, given the damage that you've done to the reputation of elections and election integrity, it would be effortless. It would be so easy and perhaps even justified for the left and for Democrats to give you a taste of your own medicine and to treat Donald Trump the way that you have treated President Biden with respect to the validity of the election. Again, there's no equivalence there between the left and the right. I'll also point out that every audit, recount, and any sort of forensic analysis has almost always come back giving Biden more votes than what he originally earned in the first place. So even all of the post-election analysis has inevitably concluded one thing. Joe Biden won the 2020 election fair and square, and Donald Trump is a loser. And it's always fun to point that out. Let me know what you think in the comments.